Hi everyone, welcome back to this fourth part of the tutorial series on how to create a multiplayer game with Godot and Firebase. In the previous episode, we had all remote players spawned and their movement synchronized. In this part, we will first use a simple fix to drastically reduce the lag and then use an asset pack to improve the aesthetics of the game. After the last episode, I started to analyze the lag of the project. I expected that most of the delay came from the Firebase server taking some processing time between receiving player updates and then sending the events back. However, I found that most of the delay happens between sending our request and the server receiving it. When digging into the Godot docs, I found this use threads property on the HTTP request node that claims to improve performance by using multithreading. And indeed, this drastically reduced the ping from around 150 milliseconds down to 70 milliseconds on average. So let's jump into the Godot project and enable this option. You can find it in the properties of the sync player local node. After enabling the use threads property, you will notice the drastic lag reduction. Now another issue is the player stuttering. We can work on that next. Currently, the players are teleported every time a new position is received. However, because we are not receiving player state updates every frame, we need to interpolate the movement. In the player remote script in the update from event function, we can set a variable for the target and smoothly move the node towards the target in the physics process function. We first calculate the difference between the target position and the current position of the node. We want to set the velocity of the node in a way that it moves towards the target with constant speed. To achieve this, we first get a direction vector with length 1 by normalizing the difference vector. Then we can set our velocity by multiplying this with the player speed to get a constant movement speed. Finally, we need to call the move and slide function of the character body 2D. This will make our character body 2D move with the velocity that we provided. Now, if you test this, there are two problems that you will notice. Firstly, at the beginning, the players will spawn at the origin and then slowly move towards their position. Secondly, when they reach their target, they start to oscillate. To fix these two problems, we can check if the player is either too close to the target point or too far away. In that case, we teleport him by setting the position directly. So here, if we are less than 1 frame away from our target, or more than 10 frames away from our target, we teleport the remote player directly to the target position. Now we get very smooth player movement. Now let's work on the game's visuals. Use this amazing art pack by Cupnoodle, which is downloadable for free on his website. You can find the link to this pack in the description down below. After downloading the art pack, we can import the assets we need into our Godot project. We only need the character sprite sheet and from the tiles, the hills and the water tiles. To keep our project hierarchy clean, I created an assets folder and put these images in there. Let's first replace our Godot placeholder icon with the player sprite. In the scene of the local player, we can replace the texture of the player sprite with our character sprite sheet. In the animation tab, we can set both the horizontal and vertical frames to 4, as the sprite sheet contains 4 rows and columns. By setting the frame index, we can later animate the sprite from our code. Adjust the collision shape to match the new player sprite size, and adjust the zoom level of the camera to get the player at a reasonable size. You can also adjust the size of the player label a bit. You might have already noticed that our sprite is not shown in its crisp pixel art, but rather blurred. This stems from a project option called Texture Filter. Open the project settings and in the General tab search for Texture Filter. The default option Linear will blur sprites to scale them to the screen size. What we want for a pixel art look is the option Nearest. After changing this, you should notice the blur on the sprite is gone. Let's work on the animations for a bit. Add a script, player animation to the player sprite node. In the script, we want to set the animation based on the direction the player is facing and whether he is moving. A nice way to store our direction is in enum, with 4 directions left, right, up and down. We can create a variable with the current look direction and initialize it as downwards. Small note at this point, by specifying the colon before the equal sign for the variable assignment, we tell Godot that this variable will be of type lookDir. If we were to leave out the colon here, then current lookDir could later be reassigned to an integer, for example, but we don't want that. We also need to keep track of whether we are moving or not in a variable. Then let's create a function, update animation from velocity, that takes a velocity vector as an input. By checking if the length of the vector is greater than 0, we can determine if the player is walking or standing still. If the player is standing still, we don't need to update its direction. Otherwise, we check which axis has the larger absolute velocity component and then set the look direction accordingly. In the horizontal movement case, if the velocity x component is smaller than 0, we're looking towards the left side, and if the component is greater than 0, we're looking to the right. And the same goes for the vertical direction. If our velocity y component is smaller than 0, then we're looking upwards, otherwise we're looking downwards. Now in the process function, we can set the frame based on the facing direction. Each direction contains 4 frames, so the down directions animations start from frame 0, the upwards from frame 4, the left from frame 8, and the animations for facing the right side starts at frame index 12. To get these indices, we can define them as integer values directly in the enum. By parsing our enum to an integer, we can extract the values we defined above. If the player is moving, we need to select the righter 2 frames of the animations. Now all that's left is to call the update animation from velocity function from our player local script. We can do that in the physics process function. By using some modulo math, we can get an oscillating value every 200 milliseconds, for example. Now if you run the game, you will see that our local player is animated, looking in the correct direction. Now we need to do the same thing for the remote players. Instead of having to change everything we did for the local player, also here with the resizing and animation settings, I can show you a different way by creating a scene variant of the local player. So first, let's save the player local as a scene as well. To do this right, we will need a base player scene and then create 2 inherited scenes, one for the local player and one for the remote player. So first, let's rename this base scene to just player. I'm also going to remove the player local script for now. We will add that back in. And also delete the camera, as this will only be needed on the local player. We can also remove the player remote scene, as we will now create an inherited scene from the player. You will probably get a warning because this player remote scene is still referenced in our world scene. We will shortly take care of this, but for now we can just remove it. Right-click on the player scene in the file system and select New Inherited Scene. Let's first create our player local scene. So we can add back our player local script, as well as the camera. Now let's save this scene as player local. Let's do the same thing for the remote scene. Now we can also add the player remote script here and save this scene as player remote. In our world scene, add back in our local player, and in the sync player local and sync players remote, add the reference to it again. In the sync player remote, we also need to reassign the player remote scene. Now one last thing we need to do in the player remote script is set the velocity of the animation node in the physics process function. Now we also have all the players' animations synchronized. Alright, that's it for this part of the tutorial series. In the next video, we will add a tile map to the game. That way, we will finally have a world to move around in. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions or suggestions for this tutorial series. If you enjoyed the tutorial series so far, consider subscribing to the channel to get notified when the next part comes out. Until then, stay tuned and take care. Bye bye.